Hey everyone. Today we are dealing with the technical difficulties of a $40 Amazon podcast setup, but that's okay because I'm so excited to be talking to you guys. And welcome back to Hustlers. We have a very exciting episode today. If you are getting married, starting a young family, maybe you've already had your first kid, or you haven't met your person yet, but you know that you do want to start a family down the road. This is the episode for you. I'm joined by one of my dearest friends. Her name is Jenna Tabachnick, and she's a doula. And we're going to be talking about family planning. We talk a lot about investments in family planning. And of course, there is a huge um, financial element to that. But when I was thinking about Jenna and having her on the podcast, I started thinking a lot about saying yes to things because I'm sure you're either this type of friend or you have these types of friends in your lives. But every time I say yes to an experience with Jenna, I end up being very happy and I either laugh a lot or I learn something new about myself. So I want to talk about the power of saying yes. We live in a time where we celebrate saying no a lot. And I think that it's really healthy to say no. If you're someone who knows that you don't like going to big group dinners, and so you say no to birthday dinners sometimes, or you really just know when your tank's full. It takes a lot of mindfulness and courage to be able to know when to say no. It's something that I've worked on a lot in the past year, and I have been feeling very empowered to say no. And I want to encourage everyone to also feel like they can and should say yes. And I know a lot of times we're told when you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else. Or when one door closes, the next door opens. And I am a firm believer in that. But I'm also a firm believer that if you want the next door to open, you need to be taking action to find that next door. It's not just going to find you. So I encourage you the next time you say no to something to think about something that you can say yes to. And that doesn't always need to be something huge and extravagant. Maybe say yes to the book club your friend's been asking you to join, or the pottery class, or the knitting class, or the cookbook club. There's so many small things that we can say yes to, even a walk in the park with a friend that you haven't seen in a long time. I do think that every time you say no, it just gives you more opportunity and more room in that tank to say yes. When you say yes to an experience, you never know what you're going to take out of it, right? You might make a new friend. You might meet the person who gives you the idea to start your next business. You might meet that person who's going to introduce you to the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. When you say yes to entering that next door, you might be saying yes because you wanna try something new or you haven't spent time with a friend, but you don't know how much compounding that can have in your life and what sorts of doors that'll open. And I was at dinner with my friends and the word inertia got brought up. And it had me thinking about when something starts moving, when the ball starts rolling, it doesn't stop till something forces it to stop. You saying yes to something is potentially you getting that ball rolling to the next incredible chapter of your life. And if that has to do with a big career move or a physical move, if you wanna move to a new city, if that is taking a risk, and so I also want us to start saying yes to things that maybe scare us, or saying yes to things that make us step out of our comfort zone, because if we don't get the ball rolling, if we don't have our own inertia, those doors don't open automatically for us. And the no doesn't always become a yes. We need to be active players in creating the life that we want. And I know that it's in front of us. We just have to say yes and take that first step. Next time you say no to something, also think about the next time you can say yes and challenge yourself because you never know what you might learn. And to bring this all back to Jenna, the two of us love music. We've been to several music festivals together. In August, the Grateful Dead were celebrating their 60th anniversary in San Francisco, and a bunch of my friends were going, and I was a little just overwhelmed in life. And I was like, I don't know if I can say yes. I was thinking about taking time off work and how expensive it was going to be and all sorts of things. And maybe San Francisco was a high city on my bucket list, and there's other places that I really want to go to. So if I went to San Francisco, it meant not going to other places. And not just my friend Jenna, but I'll say my friend Ben was really the one who pushed me to say yes to this trip. I got on a flight and I laughed harder than I had laughed in months. And I made friends that I run into at Red Rocks now. And I developed an even stronger, deeper, more passionate respect and love, not just for the Grateful Dead and Dead and Company and their catalog, but for the generations of people who have been following them around the country and the world, and the ripple effect they've created in community. And I was lucky enough to be at Bob Weir's last show, which is not something necessarily anticipated, but I'm so glad that I said yes. And that's a trip I'll remember for the rest of my life. And I hope that this encourages you to say yes to the trip or the experience or the opportunity or the job or the move that you're maybe thinking about sitting back from, because opportunity knocks once, it doesn't always knock twice. That's something that I really decided to live my life by. And I think that if we remember that, we'll be encouraged to say yes a lot more. So enough of my yes girl attitude. Being a yes girl has gotten me a lot farther than being a no girl. But let's shift to the topic of today's podcast, which is family planning. I think there's a lot of learning lessons you'll take from what Jenna has to say. She is a very wise woman, and I'm so lucky that she is in my tribe. So before we dive in, I want to talk about 4 ways that we can strategically start saving and investing money for our future kids, or if our kids are already born. The first type of investment account I want to talk about is a 529 college savings plan. These are probably the most efficient when it comes to investing for a particular goal, in this case, college, because when you invest the money in the 529, depending on what state you live in, you might get a tax deduction for the contribution, and then the monies grow tax deferred, and then eventually qualified distributions to universities are tax free. This goes towards things like room and board, tuition. This can also be used for graduate school. So after your kids get their undergraduate degree, if they want to go to medical school, law school, they can also be used. Let's say your kid either gets a full scholarship or chooses not to go to college. The money does not get stuck there. You have options. So, one, beneficiaries are really flexible, meaning if your oldest child doesn't go to college, we have a younger child, you can switch the beneficiary to another child, to a niece, a nephew, another loved one, and they can use the monies. If the kids don't exhaust the account while they're in college, you can actually roll the money into retirement savings for them. So, it's a great way to get your kids on track for retirement. There aren't really any sorts of hard maximums for 529 plans, and you actually have the option to front load it up to 5 years. So you can make 5 times the contribution in one tax year, and it won't go towards the gift and estate tax maximums. If you don't have a child yet, you can still open a 529 plan. I actually have a 529 plan open. I am the beneficiary, and I'll eventually change the beneficiary to my future child when they're given a social security number. The next account I'll talk to you guys about is a custodial Roth IRA. Custodial Roth IRAs are Roth IRAs, just like the Roth IRA you might already have and own. This is a great way to start building out your child's retirement. Again, these are extremely tax efficient vehicles. A really strategic opportunity to use these accounts is if you can employ your kids. So let's say you're a business owner, your child is 10, 12, 15 years old, and they do some marketing or office work or filing paperwork. You can employ your children, and they can contribute their earned income directly to the Roth IRAs. If you own the business and you are paying your children, you may be able to deduct the salaries you pay them as a business expense. So you see tax savings on both ends. Continuing on the theme of working with our $40 Amazon setup, and the second half of what I was sharing with everyone got deleted. So we're going to do it from here. The third account I want to talk to you guys about is a custodial brokerage account. So this is separate from a custodial Roth IRA because these aren't retirement monies. They're actually monies that you can use whenever. So there's definitely the most flexibility with these, meaning that your kids can use these types of accounts for down payments on homes or for their wedding or travel, anything that they want. You are the custodian on the account until your kids are age of majority, depending on the state that's either 18 or 21. Once they're age of majority, they actually are the owners of the account. This is an extremely efficient tool to be teaching your kids about finances, about financial literacy, about saving. When you teach your kids through things like an allowance or showing them statements or just showing them how household finances work, I think this really contributes to them being a lot more empowered around money and feeling like they have control over creating the financial future that they want because they're able to understand from a young age just how much saving can really mean in the long term. The fourth account I want to talk to you guys about are brand new for 2026. So these are the new Trump savings accounts. We should be able to open them at the end of Q2 or Q3 of 2026. And you actually have to go and set up this account for your child. These accounts might not be the most flexible in terms of opportunities to spend the monies the way your kids might want to spend them or the way that you might want to create savings buckets for your kids. However, if your children are born between 2025 and 2028, they're likely eligible for a free $1,000. And as you know, we are hustlers. We're in the years where we're optimizing our income, so we're not leaving free money on the table. If your child is eligible for that free $1,000, and then they can go ahead and invest those monies in index funds, don't leave that free money on the table. A lot of employers have also committed to matching that $1,000. So, depending on the type of firm you work for, I would definitely see if you have employee benefits where they're actually matching this, because that could mean $2,000 of free money for your child at their birth that you can then invest and grow tax deferred. The Trump accounts, as they're set up right now, can be used for buying a first home, healthcare, and education expenses. If your children decide to use the monies for other things, they're likely going to have to pay a 10% penalty and associated taxes. But I don't want anyone leaving free money on the table. If your kids were born last year in 2025 through 2028, please claim that free $1,000 for your children. And without further ado, we're going to shift this conversation a little bit from just investing in the markets to really investing in tools to create a stable, nurtured, loving home. Jenna is so passionate about the work she does. I don't know too many doulas, but the more I spend time with Jenna and learn about her work, the more I learned just how impactful her role is, whether that's before baby's born, after the baby's born. Jenna has such a beautiful spiritual outlook on life. And a funny thing about Jenna and I, we actually grew up very close to each other. We have tons of mutual friends. We went to neighboring high schools. We both spent time living in Israel, but we almost had like an invisible string. And we never really came together till we both moved to Colorado and lived in Denver. And we bumped into each other at the farmer's market. And since then, we've had several giggles, several spot dinners. And I can't wait for you to hear everything Jenna has to say, because I think there's a lot we can learn from her. And as always, if you have questions about family planning or the financial future for your children, or you're just really not sure about these accounts, you want to learn more, I'm your girl. Can't wait to chat. And we'll see. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Today's conversation is just about what people want to hear about.
Creating life, having babies, going through fertility and pregnancy and postpartum and everything that comes with growing a family.
And
Right?
I think we have the right person on the pod to do that. This is my very good friend, Jenna. Jenna, if you could please take a few to
Yeah.
introduce yourself and all the work that you do.
Yeah. I am Jenna. I'm a birth doula, childbirth educator, prenatal yoga instructor, and Ayurvedic health practitioner. I guide women and families on the whole journey. I feel like not a lot of people know what a doula does, so maybe I'll clarify that.
Yeah.
Okay. Birth doulas, we are a lot like your guides, your gurus. Kind of think of us a lot like planning a really big wedding without a wedding planner. We bridge the gap between too much information with a lack of support and really help come up with a plan that works best for you. We provide education and really just give you the confidence walking into this unknown and big transition through life. There's not just a baby that's being born, it's a mother who is also being reborn, it's your relationship that is also being reborn. And there are certain things we should do to help honor that. People really associate doulas with home births and midwives, and there is a big difference. I want to just also clear that up. You either have a midwife or an OB. You don't have either a midwife or a doula. Doulas attend hospital births, home births, birth center births. It's your birth. We're here to support you. We don't really have an agenda other than to help you bring forth your vision and bring a healthy baby and mom into this world and really just bring your power back. So,
Thank you so much.
yeah.
And I will tell you, as someone who's Jenna's friend, a lot of times I'll make plans with Jenna for dinner or for a hike or to go to a concert, and her favorite response is birth dependent because
Yes.
there's only so many things we can plan for in life, especially in childbirth. It's amazing to have Jenna as a friend and also learn from her so much about family planning and the dynamics of bringing a baby into this world and how there's so much more to it than just like, we're ready to have a baby. Now let's have a baby and welcome them into this world. If there's a family or if there's a married couple who's starting to think about having a baby in the next year or so, what are one or two things that they should either talk about or plan for or think about in being proactive for the family planning?
My biggest piece of advice is what does your village look like? And who do you want your village to be? I really believe that it takes a village. And historically, women would give birth, yes, in caves, but surrounded by a village of women that when the baby came, the whole village really picks them up and helps them. And we just don't do that anymore. You have a baby and they send you out on your way. And the fourth trimester, postpartum, that rebirth is one of the most transitional periods that you can go through, and we really need to hold the mother during that time. And so think about who you want to be holding you during that time, whether it's family or you are actively choosing to not be with family, which is pretty common as well. There's support everywhere, and I think that that's really where a doula can come in, is helping you figure out what are your options. Is it, daycare? Is a postpartum doula? Is it a night nurse? Is it neither? So really just kind of helping you come up with those options. And I would say a lot of people relocate once they find out that they're pregnant. They move closer to family, or the exact opposite. And they move far away because they don't want their family's help. They want to do things differently. But village is my short answer.
Thank you for being part of my village here.
Likewise.
Something that comes up a lot when I'm doing financial planning for clients is children and the financial impact that they have on families. Before you have a child, if there are two income earners in the relationship, it's really go, go, go. Let's make as much money as we can. So liquidity isn't as big of an issue sometimes. We can be pumping a lot more money into investments, saving for retirement. And then the kid comes into the picture and the entire financial landscape changes. And it's not just do we have money to buy diapers and pay for healthcare for this child, but is paying for this kid's college down the road something that's important to us? Is sending these kids to public school versus private school, sleepaway camp, these larger ticket items that I think often go overlooked when you're first starting the family that come later in life. So I think couples feeling aligned in their general sense of what they do want to provide to the child from an emotional standpoint and from a value standpoint, it's so important. You can save all the money you want for your kid to go to college, and maybe your kid won't want to go to college, and that's absolutely fine. But just making sure you're setting up the right money systems, I've seen alleviate a lot of stress long term down the line because you were actually planning. And Jen and I were talking a little bit before we started recording this podcast on things to invest in. And what are other things that are maybe not stock market investment related that you think young families or people planning to start a family should invest in?
My answer is gonna be support. Back to the village. You know, we often put together things like a wedding registry, right? Which is the chapter that comes before typically you have a baby, and then comes a baby registry. I can guarantee you that there's probably one item on there that's for the mom. It's probably like a Freedom Mom postpartum care package. Shout out to Freedom Mom. You guys do great things. Something that's not on there is support. And, you know, you can get hand-me-downs, you can find a used stroller, you can find used baby carriers, these things that we find we need to have when we have a baby. I promise you, if you didn't have any of them, you would be totally
Ever-
fine. There's so much shit. Excuse me. I don't know. There's just so much
Yeah.
stuff that people think that they need, and I much prefer people to invest in support. And so create a registry for mom, postpartum doula support on there, put lactation support. If you are planning on breastfeeding, I guarantee you it does not come as easy as you thought it would. And having a lactation consultant is huge. You need that support. It takes a village, right? Sleep consultant, maybe baby 6 months and is having some really crazy sleep regressions, and you've just had it. These are things that add up. And if we had a registry for more support, for the family and less items because baby doesn't really know the difference.
Yeah.
It will just make your lives a lot easier and less stressful. And honestly, just the whole transition and identity shift into becoming a parent so much smoother if you have that village and support that lifts you up. Cooking's another big one. Who wants to think about what you're having for breakfast?
All
And
my friends who
I
are
can't
having
even.
babies, that's like the
Yeah,
bringing
meals are
them a home
huge.
cooked meal is like the best gift you can provide.
For sure. Set up a meal train between your friends or your temple or church, whatever. But it's support. That's where you really want to invest your money.
Something that you brought up was baby doesn't really necessarily know what they're having. I think everyone should give their newborn children the most nurturing, loving home that they can give. But I also think this goes back to what I talk a lot about in financial planning, which is our purpose and what our goals are. If our goals are, to create this nurturing, warm home where the baby feels secure and as a toddler can have friends over for dinner and can go to Sunday school or Hebrew school or these extracurricular activities that cost money. If this is all part of your financial plan, then you'll know sometimes when your finances are being directed towards more long-term goals for the baby as opposed to the cutest new onesie, which listen,
Yeah,
baby sneakers, baby Nikes are the cutest
they're
things.
the best.
It's important to remember what the long-term goals are with baby because baby's born and the baby's going to be our child for the entirety of our lives and their lives too. Another thing that I did want to touch on was ho- I'm a career woman. I love working. I also know that I want to be a mom one day.
Yeah.
And I've seen my friends who are moms and are still working are super women. And I've seen some of my friends take breaks from work. I've seen some of my friends stay in the workplace. I've seen some of my friends start their own businesses or work part time. So they have flexibility. What can we do to support women better in our country, in the workplace, in maintaining that identity independent of just being a mom?
What does maternity leave look like? What does it mean to have a career and be a mom? I believe that, like you said, we are super women. I mean, we have superpowers. We can do it all. It doesn't mean you always should. And so, if you are somebody who wants to stay at home, go for it. No judgment there. If you're somebody who is way more career driven, go for it. What I would really recommend part of your family planning is look into what does maternity leave look like for you? What are your benefits through work and through the system? Each state is different. Each country is very different. It's important to know these things so that if you are planning to have a baby, in a few years and are maybe actively looking for a new job as well or in a career shift, I would keep this in mind and what that looks like. It is very challenging to just put your baby down at 12 weeks and go back to work. Most people are still breastfeeding if you are breastfeeding. And so then, you come up with the whole pumping schedule and, it can be really tough leaving your baby at home. Some find that childcare is not worth the amount that, you make, and so I just think it's important to look into these things way before you're close to delivering your baby and see what your benefits are and what you have access to.
It's something that's evolving,
Yes,
and I think it's really important, if you are a woman in the workplace, at least know what your maternity leave policy is. If it's something that's in line with kind of how you see yourself becoming a mom and envisioning your future, that's amazing. And if it's not in line with that, then it's time to start thinking, do I have flexibility? Is it something I can talk to my boss about? Or do I need to maybe start looking for a new job? Because that's something that my partner can support me in. The more knowledge we have, the more power we have to make the right decisions to put us on track.
100%. You're entering the unknown, and so it's also okay if those priorities do shift and you are, 6 months postpartum and you realize you're not ready to leave your baby yet and you're not ready to go back to your job. That's also okay. Most women do go through a bit of a shift, career shift, identity shift, all of it, and it's okay to be kind of figuring out what that looks like.
I want to shift this from mom to dad for a second.
Ooh.
What are some things that you want to tell men who are about to become fathers to expect? And maybe that's from the lens of supporting your spouse or supporting your partner, or from just you being a dad for the first time. What's going to shift for you?
I would be gentle on your relationship, on your partner. They are going through a lot more than you think. From a physical standpoint, we're healing in a way that we can't really see with the naked eye. Our uterus stretches pretty big in pregnancy and then clamps down. And it requires healing. It's a gentle, sacred time. Both of you are going through an identity shift of trying to understand who is this new version of yourself. You're also often mourning the old version of yourself. That's really where I would say put your money towards support and make sure you do have a village for her. That's where postpartum doulas really come in handy. Pelvic floor therapists, lactation consultants, the more support, the better. If you're going to work in the morning and then coming home late at night and are really not connecting at all with your baby and your wife, it can definitely cause some toxicity or tension, and so you wanna make time to honor her and take care of her. We say nurture the nurturer. We really mean it. Know that it's all temporary and that you will come out on the other side stronger, different. Just don't put pressure on that time really, and let it play out and let it all redefine itself.
We were talking about like the only way out is through. And I feel like that's this is another example in life where the only way out is through, and facing it with resilience and sensitivity and putting your best foot forward and patience, I think is a beautiful way to navigate such an unknown time in your life.
You wanna remember why you are creating life with this person in the first place, and
Yeah.
it's really easy to somehow forget the whole meaning of it when you're dealing with, everything that comes with that 4th trimester and changes in what your family dynamic looks like, but once you are on the other side, it all comes back around, and just hold on tight and remember what the meaning and the circle of life is all about.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Something that I love so much about my job is getting to watch families grow and passing on wisdom and knowledge to the next generation, and seeing parents so excited about their kids and doting on their kids, whether it's they scored a goal in soccer, or they got into their dream school, or later down the line their kids becoming a doctor, getting married, or something really exciting. I love watching family units grow and develop, it's not always easy and it's not always clear, but having that love and that family to fall back on is so important. I'd love if you could leave us on something beautiful you've seen being in your career for as long as you've been in it.
My job is to typically empower women and families. And I just think at the end of the day, it really is the other way around. Watching everybody go through such a vulnerable and intimate experience and then welcome me into it too is really what empowers me. It's so awesome to watch all of these families grow, come back to me with their second and third babies and include me in it. And it's just really cool to watch such a powerful shift of becoming.
I love that. Thank you. Where can our friends find you if they're in search of either a doula or just more information about
Yeah.
you and the practice?
So I am on Instagram as the spiritual doula. You can find me on middlemissdoula.com. Or if you are a reader, I have really been upping my Substack articles and I'm starting to write a lot more on what it means to be coming as a woman. We're always shifting in identities. I mean, we are cyclical. So I would encourage you to check that out because I write a lot about fertility and pregnancy and postpartum too.
I subscribe and it's been well, first of all, Jenna's a really good writer, but also I feel like I've learned a lot and I've given myself grace from some of the articles that you've written. So thank you for doing
Thank
that.
you. A lot of wisdom to share. So more to come.
I do want to tell everyone that Jenna and I went to San Francisco this summer.
We
We
did.
went for the Grateful
1060.
Dead 60th anniversary, and the memories and laughter that we shared that weekend will be in my heart well after I'm a mother.
We've enjoyed many shows together. Yes, we will be telling our kids about when we were in San Francisco. And that was Bob's last show. And we had a weird feeling, but
Yeah.
we created amazing memories. We've had many memories. I mean, I'm a Billy fan too.
So Billy Strange memories, lots of renewal memories. We were actually together when we found out that Billy's wife went into labor.
Actually, prior to that, I did tell you I had a dream that somebody gets up on stage and says, Allie's water broke. I just felt it, Dula's intuition. And
We love that Billy showed up as that though.
we're still waiting for those birth details.
Yeah.
Welcome to the world.
Thank you for
Oh,
watching.
thanks for having me, Sid.
Oh my
This was
God.
a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
love you and can't wait to see what you do in the world.
I love you. Thanks for putting all of your knowledge out into the world.
Mwah.
Grateful for you.
Bye, fam.
Bye guys.